red hair. Oh, look.
Oh, we're live. Wait, quick.
Sorry, I'm
Good
just
morning.
flapping about with my hair. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to 10 at 10 Live on LinkedIn, Debbie's Facebook, my YouTube, and now
Soon to be
a podcast.
Yay!
So
we'll let
very
you know
much-
when it goes live, won't we? We're working on it now. It sounds very professional. We're almost surprised with ourselves at how professional we sound. So that's good, isn't it?
It is. It's always a good start. So yes, these will now be released as a bite-sized podcast, so you can have us in your ears.
Come
rather
on.
than seeing us, whichever. You can do both. You can watch it and then listen to it afterwards. Like you could just have us 24/7.
That's a lot of Debbie and Bertie.
It is. But for some people, they would love that, wouldn't they?
They would love that. They would love that. But, yeah, what are we talking about today, Bertie?
On today's show, we are talking about just saying no. So that's the title of it. So just saying no.
Just say no.
Because me and Debbie were just catching up before, and it's a problem that we both have.
Yeah, and mine is literally this week. So yeah, it's literally a problem happening now. I think most people suffer with this problem, don't they? Because it's difficult to say no to opportunities because you're like, oh, where might that go? Or, you know, is that something that's going to take me further? Or maybe I've kind of wanted this at some point. So yeah, I think we have difficulty with saying no. How about you?
Yeah, exactly the same thing. I think if something comes in, like a request or a call or anything, that I will just naturally just say yes to it because it just comes from a place of wanting to help that person. Yeah. But actually, what I'm then doing is I'm not putting my own needs, and especially if I've say meticulously planned out my day, actually it just has a negative effect on everything else. So I think a lot of the time it always reminds me of that thing you see on plane. Remember those things, planes, when you could go on a plane and travel to another. I know, you'd be in the sky and then you'd be in another country and it'd be hot and stuff and not miserable. And you could go to a restaurant anyway. On a plane, when you get those little cards in the back, and it's before you put anyone else's mask on, always make sure your own mask is on first.
Yeah, sure.
And I think it's a very similar thing, isn't it, with saying no? I think sometimes saying no can actually mean saying yes to other things because you just end up having a negative effect on the stuff that you're trying to do. So it's great for that small reactive instance, but for the long-term stuff that you're doing, it just has a negative effect. And I found that yesterday. I was writing my daily email, which if you haven't joined, you should be joining because people like it, love it. In fact, I was still writing that last night at like 10 to 9 at night when it should have been out by 5. So yeah, it can have a negative effect. So what are your experiences, Debbie? Oh, and before you do, if you've got any questions, whack them in the chat and we will answer your questions about and experiences about saying no.
So Steve Edwards has just said, I do the Richard Branson thing of saying yes and then figuring it out. Currently just doing that. Am I echoey to you? I'm echoey to me.
No, you're not echoey.
Oh, good. I'm only echoey in my space. There is a thing, isn't there? There's that Shonda Rhimes book of saying yes, like the year of saying yes and just saying yes to lots of things and then seeing what comes out. But I think also, like you said, saying no sometimes is actually saying yes to other things.
Yeah.
In this idea that if one door closes, another one opens.
Exactly. And I think it's all in context as well. So, Steve, I mean, yeah, jump in the comments and correct me if I'm wrong on this. So I'm assuming that, if someone's saying to you, can you do me a photo shoot on this? Or maybe it's something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone or something you haven't tried before. Say yes, figure it out. But that it's still aligning with your goals and your missions and the great work that you're trying to do. So yeah, I think in that instance, yes, absolutely. Opportunities, if there's some great opportunities that align with everything, then you should be saying yes and then figuring it out. What I'm talking about is things that maybe don't align, or maybe when you've actually already planned out your day and then the stuff that you're saying yes to has a negative and knock-on effect on everything else, because then you're not doing the best for your customers, and also you're not doing the best for yourself, and we do have to preserve our own energy sometimes. So what's your experience, Debbie?
So I you know, when you kind of wish for things and you're like, oh, I wish this would happen. So a lot of my youth, I've been like, oh, I'd love to be a radio DJ. Wouldn't it be great if I was a radio DJ? Because I like talking and I love music. And then this week I got approached by a small new voluntary radio show asking me if I'd like to do my own show. So I said, yes, straight away. And then have spent the past 2 days not having a lot of sleep, thinking, what am I going to talk about? When am I going to find the time to run a radio show? Is it aimed at my audience anyway? What benefit am I going to get out of it? You know, I don't get to pick the music. So there'll be a lot of Mariah Carey, Celine Dion and George Ezra that I'll have to introduce, which is not particularly my cup of tea. But my ego got in the way and I thought, oh, somebody's asking me to do something. And last night I was lying there thinking, does it make the boat go faster? So this is what we've talked about last week and the week before. This analogy of, if we're going to do stuff, is it going to take us where we want to go with our business? If I do a radio show, is it going to make Debbie Doodah go faster? Is it going to help me get the goals that I want to get to? And it's like, no. It's not. It's a distraction. It's just going to take up time. If I'm recording a radio show, I could be recording workshops and tutorials for my online community that they ask me for, or I could create some online courses that people buy off the shelf off my website, which works so well because you'll be having tea on a Sunday and somebody's just bought an online course and you're like, woohoo! Feels like free money. So yeah, I did some soul searching. I was like, this isn't going to make my boat go faster. While it's a nice thing to do, I already am a business coach. I'm a director of a new social enterprise. I've got 2 podcasts. I run a women in business network. You know, my plate's kind of, I'm a university lecturer. Do I need to be a radio DJ? So I'm going to have to say no. But that's kind of like, oh, but it would be fun. But, you know, maybe opportunities aren't right for you right now. And I think that's the thing. We don't have to do everything today. You know, maybe in my 50s, I'll become a radio DJ. Who knows?
Exactly. And I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And I think listening to that, it's almost like, oh, maybe she should, maybe she shouldn't. But actually, only you know about, you know, your time and how you should be managing your time. And actually, as you then listed all of the things you do, was that 2 podcasts including this, or is this now the
2 podcasts including this one? Yes.
Okay, so this is a podcast as well now.
Yeah.
So yeah, listening to that, it's like, oh, maybe you should give it a try. But actually, I think that's a sensible decision because there's a lot of time, and a lot of the thing that I work with clients is actually when you have all these ideas to implement them on the business. Sometimes they're great ideas, but it's not the right time at this moment, and it is working on the wrong thing. So for example, if you've got loads of work and loads of clients coming in, do you need to be focusing on something that's going to be bringing you more, or do you need to be working on the clients, like you were saying, you know, adding more value to existing clients and that sort of stuff? And it sounds like from what you said, you do. That's why it feels like the right decision. And I think this is where saying no to things is a really powerful thing. But it's hard and it is really difficult. And I think, not being a psychologist, but I think a lot of it comes down from being a child, right? Like as a child, we're taught that if we say no, it's rude. Like, you know, like your mum, dad, teacher, and all that sort of stuff. Saying no to them, it's like, well, why are you being rude? It's like, you can get told off for it. And those things do then carry through. So it is difficult. So how do you think then, Doodah, is the best way to say no to people?
Well, politely. I think it's politely, isn't it? And I think it's, you know, maybe explaining the reasons why no. And it might be about saying not yet.
Yeah.
So sometimes it could be about saying, this isn't right for me now. So Steve Clark says we should have our own radio show. Well, we're going to have a podcast, which is kind of the same thing, isn't it? But without
halfway out.
Yeah, it's halfway. We've got a jingle at the beginning, so maybe that's the music. But I think maybe it's about saying not yet, because if a hard no can be a bit hard to hear, and you know it can be a bit hard to say. But if you say, "Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's not right for me at the moment, but please keep me in mind, and I might get back to you in the future," you're leaving the door open. It's not a hard no, and I think that can really help. So. yeah, I'm going to contact these people and say, just not at the moment. So what does Joe say? I had this the other day, was offered an editorial in a local mag. Oh, I love it. I said no, and then started second guessing. Then it struck me that I have no idea of the demographic of its readers, and I'd never even heard of it. So right choice. Exactly. So this radio station, it's not to my ideal clients. I'd never heard of it before. Robin said, well, you know, nobody's going to be listening, Mum. There's only going to be 5 people listening to you. So what's the point? It's like, oh, yeah, maybe. But it's fun. It sounds fun, you know, and we do need fun in our life. But maybe I can use that 20 minutes to go and catch up with a mate and have a glass of wine in a park or something. You know, that would also be fun. And I don't have a lot of time for that right now. So I think we only have so much time in the day to do stuff, don't we? And it's like, what's going to get us where we want to go? And I love the analogy of, is it going to make the boat go faster?
Yes, it is. I use that one a lot. I use it a lot in my training with my clients, and it's. I was really like, I heard that guy do the speech live, so it's something that's really, really stayed with me, and it's just so simple, isn't it? So I probably mentioned that phrase at least once a day. So Joe, it sounds like from what you've said, you've made the right decision there, because you could have loads of those things coming through, and actually, is it aligning with making your business move forward? And if you don't understand that, it could be that it is, but maybe they need to be actually coming back to you and saying, look, we really want you to do this because you align with our values as a magazine, etc. Your client base is there, but without all that, you can't make a decision. So sometimes it is better just to say no, and you can do it politely, and you don't have to apologize. You can be firm but fair with the way that you say it. And I think sometimes the worst thing that you can do is almost to say, if you know it's a no in your head, how many times have we actually said, oh, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you? And that's when you get the sleepless nights. It's like, how am I going to say no to this? Like, it's a no, don't you? You know it's a no before you've even started. Yeah,
you just being polite.
And you just need being polite, and then you've got to go and think of those excuses constantly. I always have this thing. It's like I always just say my sister's coming round, even when my sister says, I just say it as a joke. But even when my sister says, oh, can we do something? It's like, oh no, my sister's coming round. I nicked it from a Ricky Gervais show somewhere. I found it really funny. But you don't have to make excuses. I think we can fall into that. And I think that's just making self-worth. So it is recognizing your own self-worth, which is easier said than done, because as I mentioned at the beginning, and as I mentioned on my daily emails yesterday, I'll put the link in the comments.
My daily emails.
I personally struggle with saying no as well. And like Debbie said, we all do it. So it is a very difficult thing to do. So we don't have all the answers, but it is something to be aware of, that if you're saying yes to too many if you're too busy and too overwhelmed, maybe it is because you're just saying yes to too much stuff that just doesn't matter. And yes, Steve is right. There we go. Look, Steve, the words of wisdom this morning, no is just as powerful as saying yes. And I think no can mean yes sometimes, because by saying no to something, you're effectively saying yes to something else.
Yeah. And maybe something better will come along. It's like, this doesn't fit. I'm going to say no, and create space for something better to fill that gap. So just say no.
Just say no.
Isn't that from like Grange Hill?
It was from Grange Hill.
There was a song, wasn't there? Just say no. I can't remember what it was like. We'll look at it. So come and join us next week. Whatever we're talking about. Do we know what we're talking about?
Something.
We are talking about something.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about creating space. Like Joe's just said, I love that, creating space. Maybe we'll talk about how do we create space in our business to open ourselves up for new things. Opportunities, relationship building, all of that stuff. So join us next week at 10 at 10. It's been a pleasure. I'm just going to go and write that email now where I'm going to say no. I'll let you know how it goes next week. You won't be able to hear me on a radio show, but we've got a podcast coming, so you'll be able to hear us in your ears then.
Exactly. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. It's been a pleasure doing this. Debbie, fantastic yet again. If you listen on the podcast, you know what to do and all that other stuff. See you later. Have fun. Enjoy your Friday. Bye-bye. Bye.